from Greater Sandton and beyond. Get ready for the Sandton Times Hour
with your host,
Alexander.
Ladies and gentlemen, everyone in between and beyond, welcome to the Sandton Times Hour. It's edition 216. It's week 41 of 2025. I'm Alexander Leitner, and a very special welcome to you. If you're tuning in for the very first time, if this is your first ride with the Sandton Times Hour, well, hope you enjoy it. And if you're a regular listener, if you come back for more every single week, well, I welcome you on air, online, anywhere in Johannesburg and Pretoria, across South Africa, or wherever you might find yourself in the world. I'm happy to report that all is well in Sandton land, even though we seem to be battling with water on a monthly basis, Vincenzo, on a monthly basis. I think like the G20 is going to bring your own water event. Every single month. There's not a week or a month that passes where there is some pipe that bursts and we find ourselves without water for 48 hours, 72 hours. And I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear from you what your feedback is, what your backup plans are. Because load shedding was one thing without power, but without water, I mean, it really becomes a hygiene issue. It becomes just a pleasantries issue. Just to clean stuff, wash stuff, flush the toilets, shower, do these things. And then, it's sort of the normal gambit, right? So if you've got a gym membership, you're quite lucky because then you can maybe go to the gym and shower, but then they have a backup system that only lasts, a day, maybe two, depending on how things go. And then you have to start making friends in other suburbs or other parts of the country to go and have a shower. So, yeah, not having water on a regular basis has become a grim reality in larger parts of Sandton, and it's a different script altogether. But it's been a colourful week in South Africa overall, yet despite this, it's been an interesting one for the Sandton Times. Kicked off the week with a badly planned Miss South Africa announcement, which got things going. Then a fabulous luncheon at the Maslow Hotel as they launched their summer festive menu. And that was really delicious. I must tell you, if you want to go get something to eat, worth checking out the Maslow there. They've got a nice new lunch lineup. Then a corporate athlete and leadership coaching space has opened at the Wanderers Stadium. Gosh, I haven't been to the Wanderers Stadium in years. And they've opened this place called The Edge, which is sort of like a shared office space, great coffee bar, but also a leadership training space where it's part theory and part all the sort of academic stuff, call it that. And then you can go and have a sauna and have one of those ice-cold submersions, one of those -9 degrees, -3 degree baths where you sit there for 8 minutes. And the whole theory is that if you can overcome that, you can overcome anything. But a very cool space and very interesting stuff happening there. So worth checking that out as well. Then Jacobs hosted a Dubai chocolate-inspired luncheon. They've brought out a new flavor now, I think, of coffee. Somewhere here. Just have a look in that bag over there. I think they've got some flavored, Dubai chocolate-flavored coffee, instant coffee. Something indulgent for everyone. And then Techno Gym welcomed a new office space with a big cocktail party, the Italian-designed gym equipment that you probably know from the gym. They've got a new space there just up the road from Hyde Park. And then Aldo and Sandton City reopened their store. And then Chicago opened at Monte Casino this weekend, which was fabulous. I don't know if you can still get tickets. It looks like it's mostly sold out, but I think there might still be a couple up for grabs. If you a person of arts and theatre, well, you might want to go see that. But what a jam-packed week it has been. What's on the menu for the show in the next hour? In a bit, I'll be chatting to a writer, director, and producer of a documentary on the carnivore diet that is making waves globally. Carnivore. If that's something that interests you, well, take a listen. Then I'll get you all the details on what it'll take to enter MasterChef South Africa Season 6 as I catch up with a renowned South African chef and also a judge for the upcoming season. As always, I then catch up with our regular entertainment commentator to chat all things entertainment as we head to the movies once more. And finally, we catch up with a Sandton restaurant to chat about their latest menu in time for the festive season. You don't want to miss that. It's one for the foodies this week, and I would like to hear from you. If you are listening and you'd like to get in touch, you can send through your questions, comments, and feedback on email, editor@sandtontimes.co.za. You can connect on social media @Sandton Times. Hop onto the WhatsApp line 084 Sandton. That's 084 726 3866. or you can also hop onto the website sandtontimes.co.za. And if you're not part of our growing podcast community, be sure to subscribe to the Sandton Times Hour on whatever your favorite podcast platform is. There's Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, AfriPods, Podcast Body. Pick one. Make sure you subscribe, like, and share.
You're listening to the Sandton Times Hour.
So as we get into the meat of this week's show, we're taking a bite out of one of the most controversial food debates of our time. The 2025 documentary titled Animal, directed by Josh Feldman, dives deep into the carnivore diet, unmasking what it claims is a century-long conspiracy of political, economic, and even religious forces that have been shaping the way we eat and what we eat. From the creation of the food pyramid to the influence of the American Heart Association, the film challenges everything we think about our nutrition, the way we eat, what we eat, and features voices like Dr. Ken Berry, Dr. Sean Baker, and Dr. Anthony Chaffee. Animal doesn't just talk about steak and bacon. It questions whether modern diets, big pharma, and corporate entities have led us to a way that is food as we know today, and away from ancestral and human evolution. Available on Apple Plus, the documentary went to number 1 within 2 weeks of release on the Apple charts in the US, Australia, New Zealand, Ireland, and South Africa. And the executive producer is Vinnie Lingham, and the original music is by Goldfish. Here's a quick taster.
We're too good of hunters. We came out of the trees not to eat the grass, but to eat the grass eaters.
Meat is without question the most nutrient-dense food that human beings can eat.
We're all getting sick. How can an ancient diet cause a new disease? And everything made sense at that point. We're carnivores, but we're not living as carnivores.
When we replace meat with grains, we get sicker and fatter.
How did we lose our humanity? What's taken us off track?
There's only one set of facts. We are just better designed and more efficient at getting nutrition from meat.
What you're putting in your mouth, it's either leading to health or harm.
We should be nourishing our bodies with the right foods and eating more.
Gotta remember where we came from and what our food should be.
It will change your life.
To sink his teeth into it all, I'm joined by the film's director, co-producer, and writer, Josh Feldman. And Josh, good to have you on the Sandton Times Hour.
Thanks very much for having me, Alex. It's great to be here.
Josh, it's good to have you on again. Full disclosure, you and I shared a couple of years together, first as KTV presenters, then we were creative directors on a show called Vicious Delicious, and then I think we finally co-created a flagship show for Go TV. So it's been a while.
It's been a long journey, my friend, hey? Gee.
Yeah. No,
that's decades of being in this industry together.
Well, I'm glad to see that everyone's doing their thing, and one of the things that you're doing is this carnivore documentary that you've put together. Maybe you can take us into why you decided to go and produce a film like this.
Yeah, great question. Very, very long story short, condensed. As you know, I'd been involved with big format reality series such as Survivor. I'd produced The Voice. I directed Shark Tank 2016, 2017. And over the course of my career, I'd made close to 200 documentaries in the entertainment space. And I guess, Alex, you just reach a point in your career where, you kind of question, what is it that I'm doing? Entertainment is wonderful, but what am I contributing and how can I contribute? In amongst the conversations I'd been having with our executive producer, Vinnie Lingham, who'd lived in the States since I directed Shark Tank 2016, 2017, we reached a point in 2023 where I'd said yes to his invitation to come to the States. We started brainstorming ideas around what it is we were going to do together. And he came to me and said, look, he and his wife had just been on the carnivore diet. And as far as he could tell at that particular point, nobody had made a feature film, full-length feature film documentary about the carnivore diet. So I'd said, cool, let me have a look at it. I went on the carnivore diet myself for 4 months straight. Never felt better in my entire life other than when I was a child. So if you think to when you are optimally healthy in your entire lifespan, obviously you go back to when you're a kid, right? And you're incredibly full of energy. You haven't been tainted by absolutely anything else. And so 4 months of being absolutely pure, high-end keto diet, pure carnivore diet, I have never felt better. And I thought, we've got to tell the story.
Just to clarify, so this is eating exclusively meat or exclusively proteins, nothing else?
Animal-based products.
Okay.
So if carnivore, the immediate association is just pure meat, which it predominantly is, but we're saying animal-based products, which consists as well of cheese, ideally as healthy and as pure, as raw as possible, so no fillers. If you can get your hands on raw milk, again, the key, the point is as pure as possible.
Right.
And it obviously needs to come from a particular type of animal.
I think the line in the movie that stood out for me was, if you had to eat like somebody who lived in the grasslands, in the mountains, millions of years ago, as your ancestors would, what would you be able to eat? And the reality is exactly what you've just highlighted. Whatever came across your way. So you wouldn't be exposed to any processed, farmed, mass manufactured food.
Yeah, that's right. So it's going back to a place of understanding where we come from as a species, how we evolved as a species. So we often talk about an ancestral diet or a primal diet. There are so many considerations, and there's so much research, obviously science around this, Alex. I could talk to you about this for hours. I mean, the writing and the research took 5 months.
Right.
So again, how do we evolve as a species from a European perspective? So coming out of Africa, how we moved out into the rest of the world, understanding how we evolved along coastlines, how we consumed fish. When did we start eating berries? When did we start, foraging? All of that combined. I've reached a point now where I really eat only whole foods. The only time I'll touch any kind of processed foods if, for example, I'm in Paris and you have to. How can you go to Paris without eating a croissant?
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I suppose it's that 80-20 principle, right? Or 90-10. As long as you're eating well 90% of the time, that one croissant or baguette or gelato is not going to take you off track completely.
Yeah, that's right. Or a bar of chocolate. Again, it depends on what is your goal. I mean, if you're sick, if you've been struggling with obesity, if you've been struggling with diabetes your entire life, and you've tried various forms of medications, you've tried various diets, and absolutely nothing is working, a carnivore diet will help you reset your entire system. And it's certainly something that I don't think we talk about enough in South Africa. Again, having made the film now, and it's been out there since June, I could talk to you about this for hours. But the incredible health benefits that I have seen in people throughout the world having made this film is just unbelievable. It's mind blowing.
One of the natural things that are going to come out of this is that you probably must have also received a lot of heat in terms of the opposite view of this. And I remember there was a documentary that came out on Netflix with Arnold Schwarzenegger that claimed that only eating vegan is the way to go. Like, if you only eat plants, if you only eat anything that hasn't been touched by any moving thing, that's the way to go. And I'm sure you probably also had a lot of doctors and NGOs and pharmaceutical companies, etc., probably also write you a few letters, if not tweets, saying, how can you put this out into the world?
It's the bone of contention, obviously, around the ideology of big agriculture. The core of the vegan agenda, the core of the vegan argument, is how we treat animals. Okay, in the consumption of animals, which is, if you watch the film, which I hope that people after listening to this will go and do, the final chapter reminds us of the fact that we've lost the connection to our animals. I spent a lot of time with ranchers in the US, understanding how they work the land, their appreciation and their love for the soil, and how much they absolutely love their animals. And therein, I came to understand that in our fast-paced world, in our modern society, our ability, our sort of lack of understanding of where our food comes from, obviously is something that very much feeds into what vegan people are saying, what vegetarian and vegan people are saying. And for the most part, we have lost touch. So what we're trying to say, what we're trying to do, is bring people back to a place of understanding where we came from, where our food comes from, where it should come from. And in the States, There's a very particular saying that the ranchers, try and convey everywhere they go, which is shake the rancher's hand, shake your rancher's hand, get your food directly from the ranch or the farm. Why are we not doing that in South Africa? I mean, in parts of KZN, sure. If you go to places like Jackson's, Bryanston, okay, great place to get really healthy food, fantastic, fruits and roots. But for the most part, we just go to the big grocery stores and just because we don't have time, right? We don't have time. The amount of time we spend on buying our food compared to how we think about our food is completely unbalanced.
Well, I've been chatting to Josh Feldman, one of the driving forces behind a documentary on Apple Plus called Animal. And if this discussion has whet your appetite, I encourage you to go take a look for yourself and make up your own mind, get some more information. And Josh, thanks for making the time to chat.
Thanks for having me, Alex. It was an absolute pleasure, man. Good to see you again.
You're listening to the Sandton Times Hour.
So my next guest is a chef who's cooked for presidents and celebrities. He's dazzled diners at award-winning restaurants, and now he's back to dish out some wisdom and maybe a little bit of tough love on one of South Africa's biggest cooking shows. It's Chef Katlego Mlambo, known for his infectious energy and fearless food fusion. He is reprising his role as a judge on MasterChef South Africa, and this time it's in a brand new home on ETV for season 6, and it promises even more flavor, more drama, and more South African soul at the table. And Chef Katlego Mlambo, welcome to the Sandton Times Hour.
My brother, thank you so much for having me. Thank you very much.
It's good to see you again. As we highlighted just before we came on, we keep bumping into each other, but it seems to always be really good things. And before I do anything else, I think some congratulations are in order. You've just become a dad, is that right?
Yeah. Listen, my partner actually leaves. She'll be in Germany, and we're gonna have a little handsome baby boy. So we are very excited, very scared, but I think it's just a ball of a lot of amazing emotions.
How do you feel for swapping pots and pans for nappies?
I mean, listen, I think it's out of the pan into the fire. So, nice. With that being said, I definitely think we're there now. I think, as I said, my partner is amazing, and it's something you build towards. So it's going to be a different type of pressure, because normally in the kitchen, it's heat, it's all of these things. But now it's like actually having the empathy, and everyone keeps telling me about the sleepless nights. So I guess we'll just wait for it to happen.
Well, listen, all the best of luck and congratulations. Back to the business at hand with MasterChef South Africa, now on ETV. What can audiences expect from this new home and also this new season?
I mean, for me, I'm very excited. I think, being back with my fellow hosts, it being on a new channel, is one of those channels that I grew up watching. I definitely think that it's going to be touching all the corners of South Africa. But in terms of the new energy, I think expect more humility, more empathy, and definitely us celebrating South Africa, Ubuntu, you know what I mean? Celebrating our heritage. And that's what I think I'm looking forward to most, is actually seeing, because we keep saying what is South African cuisine, and actually seeing the contestants bring South Africa on a plate.
I mean, the Australians are still the ones to beat when it comes to the show. They have done a phenomenal job in producing this show. What do you think makes the South African version different? What gives it that uniqueness that we might not be getting out of some of the international releases?
I think once again with the Australia one, if you think about it, their pockets are quite deep, and also they work and it's 6 months. It's a 6-month production. Wow. You know what I mean? So with these home cooks, they're away for 6 months, and obviously they bring in these amazing international chefs from all over the world. But you look at with what we do in South Africa, we shoot for just over a month. And we are still able to, and if you look at like Rotten Tomato, obviously Australia's on number 1, but then number 2 is actually MasterChef South Africa. And I think what we have is that, once again, we have such an amazing cultural potjie pot. There really isn't one definition of what South African cuisine is. And we have that Mzansi flair, and there's definitely something about Mzansi flair. So I definitely think in terms of characters, in terms of Ubuntu, in terms of us celebrating what South Africa is, we have that slight edge.
You mentioned that your gogo's cooking is still a big inspiration for you. What lessons from her kitchen have you still kept in your own food today?
Honestly speaking, I always say like one of my favorite chefs, Chef David Higgs. He normally says like cooking, it's 90% common sense and 10% skill. So I think with my gogo, you feel something, when something is right. You know what I mean? They don't go like an ounce of this and an ounce of that. And for me, I think with food being food, sometimes you just need to keep it simple and everything else will fall into place.
Now, for the home cooks that are entering this season, what do you think is going to be the number one quality that you're going to be looking for? Because you're 6 seasons in now, so people can't say, I haven't seen it, I don't know what I'm expected to do.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm expecting that they're going to have to level up now and really bring their A game because they've had 5 seasons to prepare themselves for this.
To do their homework. Absolutely. I think for me, the important thing, this being my season 6, but my second season, is we normally underestimate that clock. That clock finishes people, hey? And I think for me, you walk into a pantry, you need to have a game plan because you have such an array of ingredients that sometimes you get lost. It's like being a kid in a candy store. You know what I mean? And sometimes you derail. So I think for me, it's like, kind of have a game plan, stick to that game plan, and honestly speaking, put something on the plate.
Absolutely. Well, if you're listening and you want to face the heat on MasterChef South Africa Season 6, you must visit the official website. It's masterchefsa.tv. Masterchefsa.tv. Complete the entry form. The closing date for entries is the 16th of October 2025 at just before midnight. So that's 23:59. If you've ever studied a qualification and had to hand in a dissertation, a minute later, you failed your degree. Much like the same, late. You're out. You're going to be cooking at home. You're going to be filming yourself with your iPhone because you're not going to be on TV. So make sure it's in just before midnight on the 16th of October. We'll put the details up on the website as well if you want to enter. And Chef, any piece of advice for anyone wanting to enter this show?
Once again, I think obviously we want to taste South African a plate. We want to taste who you are. But a lot of people, even if it happens, people don't taste their food. And I think for me, you're only as good as your last meal. You're only as good as your last meal. So when you're putting something up for the judges, for your chefs, make sure is it something that you're happy with? And yeah, the rest, Bob's your uncle.
And anything for the application? I mean, you guys are obviously looking for personality. You're looking for, uniqueness, something spicy, something flavorful.
Absolutely. South Africa is so many cultures. Show us who you are. You know what I mean? There's just so many layers and so many flavors. And, we want to see characters because that's why we watch. You know what I mean? That's why we watch. We don't want people to be boring and sometimes also be true and be unique to yourself. And we'll fall in love with you. We'll fall in love with your food. The country will fall in love with you. But be authentic. Be authentic. Be yourself.
There you have it. Be authentic. Chef Katlego Mlambo, he is one of the judges of MasterChef South Africa. He wants to see you on the show. And it was good to have you on this show. And thank you for joining me on the Sandton Times Hour.
And once again, thank you so much for having me. And I'll be seeing you around, definitely.
You're listening to the Sandton Times Hour.
And as we ease into the second half of the Sandton Times Hour, my name is Alexander Leipner. And if there's anything that sounded interesting on the show, you didn't get all the details, didn't manage to write it down, well, hop onto the website, sandtontimes.co.za, and check out the show notes for this week's edition. And you get a detailed breakdown, some additional readings, some additional links, and some additional inspiration based on some of the stuff we spoke about this week. Also, be sure to check out the social media accounts at the Sandton Times. Always some interesting content, fresh content up on the different platforms. And also save the WhatsApp number, 084 Sandton. That's 084 726 3866, 084 726 3866. And feel free to send through your voice notes, text messages, and so much more. And that's the exclusive Sandton Times Hour WhatsApp number, 084 Sandton. It's time to connect with our regular entertainment commentator, Tat Wolfen. And Tat, you've had a chance to head out to the movies again.
I did. I just wish that the distributors would preview movies far enough in advance that I could tell you I've seen the movie that's coming up on Friday.
Yeah.
But I think you remember the good old days when they used to have what were called long deadline screenings when we in the reviewing world could review a movie 3 months before it opened on circuit.
That's right.
But those glory days are long gone. So I'm going to have to tell you about 2 movies which opened this past weekend, but they cannot go past ignored. I really believe they shouldn't.
Okay.
And the first one is called The Big, Bold, Beautiful Journey. And it's an allegorical cinematic fairy tale in which this couple meet at a wedding and they embark on this kind of flirtatious yet disruptive and unconsummated journey in which they explore one another's respective pasts. So they, without giving too much away, their car GPSs, each of their cars GPSs, with the voice of a woman, ask them, would you like to go on this journey? Are you prepared to go on this journey? And they say yes. And then they follow the car's instructions. So they end up going to all these locations where they find one another, and they encounter these doors that they walk through, and by doing so, they visit episodes in their pasts, in his and in hers, and so they learn about one another. But one of the refreshing things about it is that this couple didn't jump into the sack after 30 seconds, which so often happens in Hollywood movies, but rather they're having this kind of flirtatious, tentative dance with one another. It's a very, very interesting movie, and it sometimes irritated me, although that isn't necessarily a bad thing, because I think if you can leave a movie kind of wrestling with conflicting opinions about the movie, that means that the movie has had some kind of interesting effect on you. You know, I did, once I finished the movie, I didn't just walk away from it, as if you're watching any kind of eye candy. I had trouble with it, and I questioned it, and I pulled it apart. For those people who are interested in stars, it stars Colin Farrell and Margot Robbie. Now, I know that this shouldn't be a part of a serious movie review, but that Margot Robbie is so gobsmackingly beautiful.
Well, she's certainly one of the leading ladies of Hollywood. I mean, she has done an exceptional job in carving out an unbelievable career. I mean, she's been in some incredible movies. And I was actually going to say to you, this kind of sounds a little bit like, it's giving me Inception vibes. It's giving me What Dreams May Come. Is it sort of like this blend of reality and fantasy, and you're never quite sure which side you're in?
It is a blend. I don't like to talk Inception, because it doesn't have that kind of sort of science fiction-y vibe to it. But it does move in and out of reality, and that's why I say it's kind of an allegorical movie, and it looks at. I think so many of us have these issues with making a commitment, whether it's fear from previous bad relationships or whatever it is. So it's that dance that we have with, like, yes, that person immediately appeals to you, but do you go there? And if you go there, what are the risks? Yeah, so I would pull it away from the sci-fi thing. And you just have to go with it. That's the important thing about this movie, is you don't have to say, but like, how would this happen? Since when does a GPS talk to you, kind of thing? Yeah. You need to get away from that kind of thinking.
It sounds like a thinking cinema person's movie. A big, bold, beautiful journey.
It's like the anti-rom-com, because it hits some rom-com beats, and yet it isn't. It isn't that ghastly. I can't stand rom-coms. So yeah, I would call it the anti-rom-com.
You also went to go see something a little bit more sporting as well, something based on a sort of a true life story.
And thank you for the prompt for the sportier movie called The Smashing Machine. Now, it's a biopic based upon the real life of a guy called Mark Kerr, and he's played by Dwayne Johnson in the movie. Mark Kerr was a towering giant in the early days of mixed martial arts fighting, MMA fighting. But he was a giant both physically and also in terms of his unbeatability and his status on the scene. Now, I've got to tell you, I'm not a fan of fighting movies. These movies based on the lives of boxers or whatever.
Yeah.
So I went in hesitatingly. Hesitatingly, would that be right? With hesitation, whatever. I wasn't too sure going in, but I must tell you, the fighting sequences are not these prolonged things. For starters, I get bored by them, and also I don't derive any pleasure from people whacking the living life out of one another. So yeah, I went in with a great amount of hesitation. But the movie actually concentrates on the fraught relationship that Kerr had with his neurotic and needy girlfriend, played by Emily Blunt. And the fight sequences go by quite painlessly. There's obviously pain being inflicted, but the movie doesn't fixate on the fight sequences.
Right.
But what I liked about the movie is that it was really very fresh. That every now and then I'd sit up and go, well, that's interesting. Now, for example, the dialogue between Kerr and his girlfriend is kind of spare and awkward sounding, and it didn't sound scripted. Now, that for me made it very real, because so often, I'm a fan of well-written dialogue, sure, but so often you just get the sense that people are reeling off these very clever lines, which kind of hit the marks, but in real life, we don't always say the most insightful or the most hurtful or the most amusing things, do we? We sometimes just say this, utter these banal and stupid things. So already the dialogue had me sitting up and going, well, that's really quite unusual and interesting. And then the score was by someone called Nala Sinafro. And it's the first feature film she's ever scored, but it blew me out of the water because most Hollywood scores tell you what to think. So if it's a tender scene, you've got 50 violins playing poignant music. And yes, I'm not saying there isn't a place for that kind of thing. But this score was very spare, almost matching the dialogue. And it actually sometimes even runs in counterpoint to what we're watching. During the fight sequences, we also don't have that strident and obnoxious eye of the tiger type of nonsense, that we've associated again with American fighting movies, that bam, 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 that real, that in-your-face kind of music.
So two very good movies to try and go and watch if people get a chance over the coming weeks.
Two very different and very interesting movies, and they're both on circuit now, The Smashing Machine and The Big, Bold, Beautiful Journey.
Oh, well, brilliant. Well, listen, I'm going to have to ring the final bell on this as our time is up. But Tat, listen, great to chat again. And we're going to do it all again next week.
I certainly hope so. Cheers, Alex.
Cheers.
You're listening to the Sandton Times Hour.
So when it comes to modern Italian dining in Sandton, a few kitchens are as eccentric as SINN, located at LXX Sandhurst. And at the helm of this culinary theatre is Cassie Davis. She's SINN's Culinary Director, and whose vision has shaped a menu that is as daring as it is indulgent, from wood-fired salmon pate and pear carpaccio to lobster-topped mac and cheese. Cassie has curated a lineup of food that doesn't just feed guests, but stages a performance on every plate. And as Sandton prepares for the festive season ahead, Cassie Davis joins me on the Sandton Times Hour. So Cassie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Look forward to chatting all things food.
Indeed, Cassie, we had a chance to sample some of the new menu at SINN. We'd been at the opening, which was almost a year ago. Now, a year later, you've taken some dishes off, added some dishes onto SINN. But before we get into that, how would you describe the restaurant's food philosophy in your own words?
So I would say that our food philosophy is mainly just, trying to stay true to our Italian roots and seasonality, and just making sure that we're using the best products that we possibly can, that we can get in South Africa, and even if we have to bring it in, and trying to make it a little bit more modern than what we used to have with Nonna, and quite accessible as well. I mean, when I go out to eat, I try stuff that I'm not going to make at home. And I mean, saying me being a chef, it's I can make most of the stuff, but if I go out, I try and eat what I'm never going to make at home and try all sorts of different stuff. So that's when I think of menus, when I think of dishes, I mainly look at that as well and try and make it accessible.
How do you fuse that with Sandton's dining culture? I mean, how would you describe the way people eat and dine in Sandton?
It's a bit of trial and error, and it's a lot of customer feedback, which we obviously, we try and get a lot of customer feedback. I go out to the tables and say hello, see if they like the dishes and everything. It's quite difficult. We own some other brands as well in different areas, like in Pretoria and stuff like that, and it's completely different. The dining culture in Sandton is different. It's they seem to be a little bit bigger eaters, which is quite nice. So we've got to marry everything together and just take the customer feedback and change the menu. So we've been having some fun with the menu, like dishes are on and off all the time. trying to get to the point now where we're just going to change the menu maybe every month, every second month. And if a dish isn't working, just rework it and make sure that it is palatable to the Santonian, let alone the South African, with the al dente pastas and. I mean, your al dente and my al dente and everyone else's al dente is actually different. So it's a challenge, but it's a challenge that we love and that we grow every single day. That's basically it, yeah.
What's the starting point for you when you start having to curate dishes for a season? Where do you begin?
I begin with the suppliers. I have quite a good relationship with all of our suppliers. They come and see me often. What's new? What's cunning? I mean, I love the word cunning, and I love the word anything. What other people aren't doing as well, and what I can get for that season. So the heirloom tomatoes, and we talking to the farmers. We use Pico Grow, which is unbelievable small farm for all the micro herbs, all the flowers, and all the nice pretty stuff. And then we go to the market every morning. We have a team that goes to the market every morning, the Joburg market. And obviously our meat suppliers, we work really, really closely with them, with batches and what's working, what's not working. And also what I want to eat. Like, I know it sounds really, really strange, but it's what I want to eat. It's what the owner wants to eat, and what we know works and what we know sells. So, a good piece of steak and how to make it even better. That's where we're at.
Well, I must say I was quite pleasantly surprised by the vegetarian dishes, which I had a chance to taste at the relaunch. And the tomato chili stracciatella and the artichoke and truffle ravioli were two particularly inventive dishes, which I thought were really good. How important is pushing plant-based dining in 2025 versus sort of falling back on sort of the tried and tested stuff?
I'm pretty good at a few things. I tell my chefs, and one of which is vegetarian, and I'm not a vegetarian myself. However, the owner is vegetarian, but actually he hasn't really shaped that direction. I push that agenda because I feel like there is a lot of protein everywhere other than your lamb and your chicken. So I try and be really creative when it comes to vegetarian food, because I also probably eat vegetarian 5 days out of the week. And also I love cheese, love cheese, love bread, but I know that that's not sustainable to eat every single day.
Some people might disagree with you.
I mean, yes, but my weight and the gym and everything like that doesn't agree with me. So so that's why I try not to eat it every single day, but I would if I could. But especially the bread, because I love bread and potatoes. But I mean, we try really hard in the vegetarian space, and I think we hit it all the time. I practice those dishes a lot. Vegan, not so much. I found that in the last 5 years, we don't have a lot of vegans coming through. However, on Friday night, we did have some vegans, so we're very adaptable, and we make up a couple of dishes that's not just here's 17 types of veg. Made a really nice pasta for them. So we do have a couple of vegan options, although we don't say it on the menu. But vegetarian is a big thing, and we pride ourselves in having really, really tasty dishes and filling dishes.
You also have a very open kitchen. I mean, the kitchen faces the dining room. I mean, you've got the big wood fire pizza oven. You've got a big team of people working in the kitchen. Does that add additional pressure to delivering the goods on the evening? I mean, does that sort of add an additional layer of pressure that you might not need being on display whilst serving a whole dining room full of people?
Yes, 100%. I think that it adds a whole lot more pressure, but it also adds a lot more pride, if I want to call it that, to my chefs. They keep everything as clean as possible, obviously, because everything's on display. Everything. So, I mean, my swearing has to stop a little bit. The dancing and the singing in the kitchen also has to. I mean, my staff have got a couple of videos of me having fun in the kitchen, but it does add a bit more pressure, but it also holds us accountable. I feel in that everything just has to be meticulous. Everything has to be perfect. Everything has to be consistent. And that starts with your workspace. That starts with how you look and how you pride yourself in everything around you. So it is a lot more theatrical. We've also found that in the last couple of years, like a lot of South Africans want the theatre. They want to know where it's cooked, where it's coming from, how it looks. Want you to finish it off at the table. That's why we cut the pizzas in front of you with the shears, and we put the parmesan on the pasta while you're sitting there. Yeah, a lot more theatre based, a lot more transparency. Actually, I think that's actually the word for it. And that's it. What you see is literally what you get.
Well, there you have it, Cassie Davis. She's SINN's Culinary Director. That's SINN with 2 N's. Situated at LXX Sandhurst. They've brought out a new menu for people to go and try. And if you're into all things Italian, or you're just into a bit of daring dining, well, you can go check out this restaurant over the next couple of months as we head into the festive season. And Cassie, it's been good to have you on the Sandton Times Hour.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
And that's a wrap for the Sandton Times Hour for another week. If you want to get in touch, you can send through your questions, comments, and feedback to editor@sandtontimes.co.za. You can connect on social media @Sandton Times. Hop onto the WhatsApp line, 084 Sandton, the exclusive Sandton Times WhatsApp line, 084 726 3866, and send through your voice notes, questions, comments, and text messages. And also, don't forget to visit the website sandtontimes.co.za, and always make sure to subscribe to the podcast if you want to catch it regularly on your mobile device on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, YouTube, and all other leading digital audio platforms, and join the growing online digital community. Thank you to all my guests who made time to be on the show this week, as well as the regular contributors and the team behind the scenes, pulling it all together. Always hugely appreciated. A very special thank you to you for listening, and God willing, we'll do it all again next week.
That's it for this week. Thanks for listening to the Sandton Times Hour. And if you enjoyed it, be sure to share it.